You are listening to Unstoppable Actors, the essential podcast for ambitious, unknown actors with me, Louise, the artistic director of Standby Method Acting Studio. And for the last 13 years, I've been taking unknown actors with blank CVs all the way to Netflix dramas, Amazon Prime films, TV soaps, and stage plays around the world. And every week I'll be talking with you and sharing how you can become a paid working unstoppable actor, because you 1000% can. An acting career is doable. Are you ready to dive into the episode? Hello everyone and welcome back to the podcast. Today we are talking about something that can completely transform your work as an actor when it is done well. And it can completely waste your time when it's done badly. And we are talking about character backstories. Now, before we get into the do's and don'ts, I just want to share that there is a big old thunderstorm here in the UK as I'm recording this. And so you might hear some crashes in the background. The storm came earlier and I thought, I'll hold off of recording the podcast. It went away and now it's come back. So maybe we'll have a dramatic background soundtrack. Who knows? Maybe we won't. Anyway, thunderstorm aside, I do want to start with a question that often gets overlooked, and that is, what even is the purpose of a backstory? And the reason I want to start with that question is because if we don't understand the purpose, it is so easy to get lost in the process and get all confused and in a pickle and jumbled up. So here is why we do character backstories. They exist simply to open up your imagination. A character backstory helps you feel a deeper connection to the person you are about to play. It gives you a greater understanding of their motives, their drivers, their fears, their wounds, their blocks, their desires, all that goodness that makes us a human. And ultimately, character backstories allow you to feel far more confident in both their emotional and physical world and the choices you make around these when you're rehearsing and performing. So one thing the backstory isn't for is the audience. It is not for them. Your audience is never, ever, ever going to see or read your backstory. It's certainly not for the casting director and it's not for your acting coach. It is for you. It is there to help you know the character so well that you're no longer second guessing yourself in scenes. You're no longer thinking, am I getting this right? Is this what the character would do? You're no longer playing things safe or generic because you have created an entire world for this person. And one actor who I absolutely adore, look up to, I'm inspired by no end is Viola Davis, who ultimately works like a method actor. And she spoke about quite recently writing a 100-page backstory for a role she had that had around 7 minutes screen time. Now, whenever I mention this, some people immediately say, well, that's a bit excessive, that's a bit too much. Oh, hello, Thunder, you might be able to hear this in the background. They think it's excessive, or they'll say things like, well, why would you even do that? It's just 7 minutes of screen time. But Viola sees it differently. She is very, very, very committed to her craft and the character. And I know if you're listening to this episode, you are very curious about the world of method actors and you look up to them and you're inspired by them as well and you want to learn from them. So someone like Viola Davis doesn't see it as excessive or a waste of time to do a 100-page backstory. She sees it as her responsibility to know that person inside out so she can understand them so well that every reaction makes sense to her and it's happening on an unconscious level when the cameras are rolling and she's not second guessing. She gets why her character responds and behaves the way it does. And honestly, I agree with her way of working because method acting is about knowing the character as well as you know yourself. you have a duty to tell the truth of that person that you are playing. And so if you're the kind of actor that absolutely loves rolling your sleeves up and really getting to work and going into the nitty-gritty detail, then method acting is probably going to feel like home for you. In fact, not probably, it will. And some of you might already be using method acting techniques instinctively without even realising that you are. I was way back in the early days when I first started acting. I had no idea that I was doing it until I actually learnt method acting, and that's why it felt like home for me. So anyway, I'm digressing. Let's talk about where actors often go wrong with backstories then. And I've got 2 ways they go wrong. And the first one is writing for the sake of it. Whatever you do, do not write a character backstory for the sake of it. So when I first started acting, I used to love writing character backstories, and that was one of those things where I was naturally moving towards method acting without realising it. However, I genuinely thought longer automatically meant better. And I thought that if I could fill pages and pages and pages and pages and pages and pages and pages, I was doing incredible work. But that's not necessarily true, because writing for the sake of it is a waste of good time and creative energy. A 100-page backstory is only useful if those 100 pages actually deepen your understanding of the character. If it's just fluff, it's fluff, and there's nothing you can do with that. So the goal isn't to write more and more and more and more and more, just to be like, oh yeah, I've done 100 pages. The goal is to understand more. That is always the goal with a backstory. And sometimes what will happen is out of those 100 pages, there'll be a lot of fluff, and there's one paragraph that is more meaningful than everything else you've wrote, and it reveals more than those 100 pages. So, yes, go in depth, but don't do it for the sake of it. Now, the second don't with backstories is do not rewrite the script. This is another really, really common mistake. I see it all the time in my classes with new students, and, it's just one of those things that we get a little bit sucked into because we've not been taught another way. So actors, when they first start writing backstories, will often sit down and create a backstory that simply retells everything that happens in the script. But that's not a backstory. That's the actual story of the script. The backstory is everything that happened before, leading up to the script. So if you think about your own life and someone asks you to write your life story, you wouldn't only write about what's happening today. Yes, that's important. It's prevalent, but there's so much more to you than that. You would talk about your childhood. You'd talk about your teenage years. You'd talk about core memories, moments that shaped you, experiences that hurt you, experiences that inspired you, people you lost, new people that came into your life, people you loved, the moments that completely changed the way you see the world. Those are the things that have made you who you are. And the same is true for the character. So the challenge that we have as actors is we have to work backwards from what we know. So we start with the present day circumstances and we reverse engineer that. So you might think, well, what are the present day circumstances? They're the facts of what's happening in the story. So we're going to go into that a little bit more in detail now as I move on to our first do. So one thing you must do with character backstories. So everything does start with the given circumstances. Now, if you've never heard given circumstances before, or you have and you're not quite sure what it is, the given circumstances are the facts that we know to be true. They are verifiable. They are in the script. They're in the text. They're observable. From these facts, these given circumstances, we begin creating what method actors call supposed circumstances. So in other words, if this is happening now, what might have happened before? So for example, Imagine you are playing someone whose partner desperately wants to get married in the script. That is a given circumstance. A lot of the scenes revolve around this. But your character keeps refusing. So that is what we know. They are the given circumstances. Not all of them, but some. So now we start asking questions. Why? Why does your character keep refusing? Why do they not want to get married? Maybe they witnessed a terrible marriage growing up. Maybe they saw their parents destroying each other. Maybe they experienced betrayal. Maybe their parents got divorced and it has scarred them. Maybe they learned that marriage equals pain. Now, we don't know for certain which one of these avenues it is because the scriptwriter hasn't told us, but it's a reasonable possibility based on what we're seeing that any one of those examples could be true. So we create a believable past that supports the present and we go, okay, well, which one of those is the most interesting and really does support what I'm seeing in the script? And now suddenly you have part of the backstory and the character's behaviour makes sense. And because it makes sense, your performance is stronger. And that is the whole reason we're doing a character backstory, to strengthen your performance. So your next rehearsal, your next scene, your next performance is your best performance of the character. Now, the second do is use your own life as inspiration. And this is a practical takeaway that I want you to try this week. So when you are creating a backstory, look for points where your life and the character's life overlap. Not identical experiences, we don't need that, but we do want to look for similar emotional experiences. So, for example, let's take the character Willie Loman from Death of a Salesman. He's struggling financially, he's carrying disappointment, he's wrestling with his own sense of worth and identity within the family. Now, how can we start to find some crossovers and overlaps? Maybe you've experienced financial hardship yourself. So you can use what you know emotionally to help build Willie's past. So you might imagine growing up was difficult. There was times that you didn't have enough food, you felt embarrassed, you didn't want your friends knowing this. Your parents pushed you to do well because they wanted a better life for you. And yet here you are facing many of the same struggles. So do you see what I'm doing there? I am looking at, this is just an example, obviously I don't know your life, but maybe that has been your life. So we're not copying it, but we go, oh, I understand this because I've been through something very, very similar. So what we're doing is we're borrowing emotional truths. We are using what we know to help us imagine what the character might know. And that is pure gold. That is often where the richest work happens, because imagination grows best when it's in truth. So because you understand that, then you can start pinching little bits from your life to create the backstory for Willie Loman or whatever character it is that you're playing. Is this making sense? Now, before we finish, I want to address one final fear, and it is a big fear that many actors have, and it is, what if I get it wrong? What if I get the backstory wrong? Well, here's the good news. There isn't a perfect backstory. The goal isn't historical accuracy. The goal is usefulness. If the backstory is helping you understand the character more deeply, if it is supporting truthful behaviour in the scenes, if it helps you connect emotionally and develop empathy for this person and understand why they're behaving the way they are in the script, then ta-da, it's doing its job. So all you need to do is give yourself permission to be imaginative. Give yourself permission to be curious and give yourself permission to explore, because that is where great acting lives. That is where you will start finding your next performance becomes your best performance. And speaking of exploration, this leads perfectly into our next 10-week method acting module coming up this summer in July, the end of July. So we've got a module that comes around only once every 4 years. And one of the things that we're going to be doing is stepping into the shoes of real people from history, and it is so exciting. Oh, I absolutely love it. It is one of our most loved modules as well with our acting students, and the reason they love it so much is because they get to deep dive into an actual person who lived in history. And when you're portraying someone who actually lived, backstory work becomes so exciting. You become a detective. You learn how to gather information. You learn how to connect the dots, how to uncover motives, how to understand events that shaped that person, and how to bring that person to life in a way that feels truthful, human, and believable. Now, applications aren't open just yet, but if you would like some practical method acting exercises to get you started right now that you can dive into straight away, you can download our free method acting toolbox straight to your phone. And inside it, I have left you a collection of character development exercises that are going to help you connect more deeply to the roles that you play. For you to get this, all you need to do is go to tinyurl.com/method toolbox. That is tinyurl.com/method toolbox, or hit the link underneath where you've pressed play. And I just want to thank you for listening. And remember, the goal of a backstory is not to impress anyone. It's for you. It's to know your character so well that when you step into the scene, you can stop worrying about what to do. It ends the overthinking. Instead, you can simply live as them truthfully and get in the zone with that character. See you in the next episode.
I've absolutely loved hanging out with you, and I really hope you found this episode inspiring. If you have, please do rate the podcast and hit follow so you never miss an episode, and I can help more actors like you. And come and join one of the most supportive, uplifting acting communities on socials, the Unstoppable Actors Facebook group, where you'll get your weekly injection of inspiration, networking, and receive your free Method Actors handbook so you can become an unstoppable actor.